Hello, and welcome back to the Ice Cream Parlor, episode 2. Today, we're talking everybody's favorite archetype, and that is Stall. Now, I know I mentioned in the last one that I probably wasn't going to be talking about Stall. I lied. I planned it out. I planned it out this series, and I decided that I'm going to try and make an episode going deeper into each different archetype for a couple of reasons. First, I don't want people to if it is their first time and they feel like they're gonna have better success with stall than any of the other ones, then I wouldn't want them drafting bad stall or stall that they have a harder time pulling off, right? And I think more importantly, like I showed the tier list last episode, the play style is infinitely. Let me start the music. The play style is infinitely less important than you. Okay, whatever you are most comfortable doing, and whatever you are able to pull off the best is the best for you. I don't play bulky offense or balance as well as I do defensively biased teams. So I play to my strengths, right? Don't ignore the weaknesses, but definitely play to the strength that you have. And that's something I see a lot of stall teams fail to do. Is they'll try to be more than a stall team. If you're a stall team, you need to you need to have your team complete its job. Okay? So if you are a stall team or a hyper offense team, you want the team to be hyper offense, right? Not a bunch of slow clunky mons. Just kind of thrown together all willy-nilly. I say this for a couple reasons. I see a lot of stall teams that are like this, where they try to do more than what they're supposed to, and oftentimes it results in having a less than stellar showing throughout the season. Stall is a hard thing to do in draft league because it is so predictable. We covered that all last week, and we're going to be talking about it like a little bit this week as well, or this time as well. And also, I am very excited to say that I have locked down 3 different guests. So, like I was saying in the first one, this is going to be a multi-part, or I was thinking about it, and it is going to be. And I'm going to have guests come on every so often, just for a different perspective. And I've locked down 3 of them. They're all willing to be a part of the series, which is awesome. No spoilers. You'll see them when they're here. Okay, so stall. We're playing in draft league format. This is important to remember because it's not OU. Okay, and I know it seems stupid, but the meta is very different. For instance, last generation, Infernape was UU, but it's definitely, by all cases, one of the best mons in draft league format. A lot of time there is correlation, but it's not always inherently the same, right? Let's look at. I'm using the SPDL's tiers, just because I trust them. I trust Orange's tiers that he did and we did. So we're gonna take a look at these. Tier 1, you have a couple options. I'm going to talk about the obvious ones and then get into the less obvious ones, I suppose. I'm going to cough a little bit, so 1 second. I really hope you can hear that, and I did actually mute the microphone. And I have my favorite song from across all the Pokemon games playing, because Stall is my favorite archetype in not draft. So let's start with some obvious things. In the tier, we're going to go by tier. So we're going to go by tier, and usually the majority of drafts will have, the way it's formatted will be 1 tier 1, 1 tier 2, 2 tier 3s, 1 tier 4, 1 tier 5, and then 400 points for a mega and 4 free picks. As you can see here, each tier is assigned a point value. So this is actually something people get confused on. When I say free picks, those actually cost points. Your normal tier picks is a pick that you are entitled to during the draft, but your free picks must be budgeted with points. Usually it's 400 points. Some leagues will have 420 points, and you gotta, whatever. Most of the time, I don't know how to make it go side to side like that. Most of the time, the megas will give you points as they get worse. So these tier 2 megas will give you 40 points, which you can use to your free points. And your free points all cost money depending on the tier, or points depending on the tier. So if you want a tier 1, it'll cost you 180 points to your free points, and then you have 220. left for the last 3 picks. But if you have that, that 220 and you draft this Mega Abomasnow, then you get another 60, so you'll have 280 to make the last 3 free picks. It's really cool the way it works, and there are different variations, but we're going to talk about just overall budgeting. First, we're going to start with Tier 1 right away. Now, there are a couple things you could do here. There actually are a lot of mons I think could work very well in stall. Obviously, they got ones like Clefable. Having a Magikarp and Unaware Mon in the same Mon that can go each one different week to week is very, very important. Or not very, very important, but it's very, 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 very good. To have Skarmory as a Go 1 Defog, and where is the Skarmory? Where are you? Yeah, right here. Skarmory, the Defog, the Rocks, the Spikes, the Iron Defense, Body Press, the Whirlwind, Phasing, very big deal to stop things from setting up on you. Toxapex, excellent mon because of the Regenerator. You can pick up another Regenerator core. But I think, in my humble opinion, taking a Tier 1 as a defensive mon kind of takes a lot of value away. So the way I see a very, very vast amount of the draft stall teams work is they have one mon that is very fast, very powerful, and a couple other offensive powerful mons, but the rest are usually slower and clunkier. So for that reason, I suggest a couple things if you're going for that. I don't suggest Blacephalon because I think it's much better when I just think it's too frail of a mon to be on stall. I understand that sounds weird, but that's just the way I say it. I don't think Blacephalon's very good. It's very weak to priority. That is not like a Cell Rock stuff. Very weak to rocks. That's the big one. But it can be worked around. It's a very good Choice Scarf user, but it's fast, so you don't get a lot of value out of it, I don't think. Aegislash is a very good one, and for the defensive utility and offensive capability it does have. King Shield is very useful, but I think it could be a very good Tier 1 to be a part of your Steel Core on a stall team, because it can be very stally. It can, like people forget, but it had that, I think it was Gen 6, it had a set that was, I think it was like King Shield Toxic, Sub, and then X move, and it let it naturally beat its checks and counters, which is very good. Darmanitan, Darmanitan and Dracovish both kind of do the same thing in that they force your opponent, they take a lot of pressure off of your defensive mons because it forces the opponent to bring a Scarfed Mon to revenge kill. And by what I mean by that is a lot of times there's not a lot of things that could switch into Darm or Dracovish throughout a game unless you're Water Absorb. So having a mon that limits the defensive checks on your opponent's team kind of single-handedly makes it easier to predict your opponent's prep. Right? If they have 1 to 3 mons that are faster, but they need to have specs to break one of your walls, or they need to have Band to 3-hit KO or 2-hit KO one of your walls, then you can predict kind of which one's going to be Scarfed and which one's going to revenge kill Darmanitan. Darm has kind of the same issue that Blacephalon does, in the fact that it's a Rocks weak. Dracovish doesn't have that issue, but it is a little slower, which means it can be revenge killed by slower mons. Dragapult's another good one. Second fastest mon in Draft League, and it's very versatile offensively. Works well with subsets, U-turn, good momentum, Will-O-Wisp. It can play a defensive role kind of too with Will-O-Wisp, sub hex, and all that. It works well with Toxic Spikes if you wanted to run like Scarf Hex or Specs Hex or something like that to kind of clean late game. Gengar is good, but I don't suggest him as much. Infernape's definitely not worth it. Kartana can be worth it. And the single best one in my opinion is going to be Zeraora for a couple reasons. First of all, it is the single fastest mon in Draft League format. Okay, I know it's the second fastest. It's slower than, I forget what it's called. Why am I forgetting what it's called? A Selgor. I believe it's like 1 to 2 points slower than a Selgor. But other than that, it outspeeds everything else down with a Jolly Nature, which means a few things. Number one, you usually can abuse an attacking nature, so you get a little bit more punch. And number 2, its move pool is unreal. So if we go over to Zeraora, and we look at its move pool, first of all, it's offensively versatile, right? Good speed here. Like, look at that, without any investment, you're at 222, and right here, you outspeed like the Urshifus without a Scarf, which is incredible. Volt Absorb's kind of a lackluster ability, but it's very nice. You can see here it has a good move pool, both physically, with like, you know, CC, Drain Punch, Fake Out. Knockoff's very big. Play Rough, Plasma Fist, Outrage. Quick Attack if you want priority, but Wild Charge is a very big deal. Blaze Kick is awesome for Steel types, what you kind of have CC for, but you never know if you maybe want Blaze Kick for something specifically. Maybe you're facing a Ferrothorn, you're having a hard time breaking it. Blaze Kick can come in handy since you don't have to set up bulk ups or anything, which is another thing. It's a very good setup mon. Gets Calm Mind and bulk up. But if we look at special, Discharge, Focus Blast, Aura Sphere, Grass Knot, a little bit less here, but it's definitely usable. Thunderbolt, Volt Switch gives you momentum. More importantly, it gets Calm Mind, which is very good. It gets Calm Mind, it gets bulk up, and it gets something I think is slept on a lot is Work Up. Work Up boosts the user's attack and special attack. If you want it to be mixed, which you definitely can run. It has decent defenses, the decent HP, which can really take advantage of your speed. Because since you're not running as much speed, you don't need to run as much speed. You can run more into bulk, and you can kind of be a bulky Zeraora, but you're still faster than the opponent, right? Yes, but it's very good, and because it's so fast, you're able to revenge kill a lot more mons if they happen to take down one of your walls, right? It's all about playing to your strengths and having something to revenge kill. Having like 1 or 2 things to revenge kill your weak points is a very big deal, and I think Zeraora is definitely worth a tier 1 pick because there are so many walls in the lower tiers that I think are a lot better. I think are very valuable for their tier. Other than that, you have stuff like Kartana. I said Gengar already. Kartana is very good. Dracovish and Darm are other 2 big ones we talked about. Dracovish is pretty much just actually Fish's friend. It's 1 move. And Darmanitan, the reason these 2 are kind of different though is they can get outpaced by other Scarfers. Zeraora, if you put a Scarf on it, will be the fastest one coming that week unless the opponent has an Excelgor that is Scarf. This can be a little different. It can have slower mons because right here we have 95, 75, but does that mean these 2 don't do a good job? No, these do an excellent job because they are both kind of inherently Scarfed or banded, and that could be a very big deal if you wanted to remove something or you wanted to force your opponent to bring a Scarfed mon for sure. Something will need to be Scarfed to revenge kill Darm the vast majority of the time, unless they can wall it, in which case you have other ways to break it down. But neither of these 2 get knockoff. Dracovish, Zeraora is not weak to rocks, and Zeraora is not stopped by Water Absorb. So Zeraora is kind of more, it does a lot more for its thing, I guess. And it's more versatile. You saw there that they both are physical, but Zeraora can go special or physical. Has excellent setup on both. Works well with every single choice item. 102 is nothing to scoff at. In fact, this is more than Dragapult's special attack set. It doesn't have the special move pool to compete with Dragapult, but it is still 2 points higher, right? Tier 2. I think tier 2 is very obvious. You're going to want your Amoonguses, your Chanseys, your Corsola kind of, but knockoff it's very knockoff weak, so I don't recommend having too many of Violite mons, so I'd recommend going either Corsola or Chansey. Chansey's obviously better. For Wish Pass and stuff, Mandibuzz is very bulky mon, where Uniclus is very good because it gives you a Trick Room option, and it Regenerator, right? Regenerator and Magic Guard. Or not Magic, yeah, Magic Guard. The Slowbros, I guess now. Tangrowth, excellent option. Yeah, so this is where you're gonna want to start building your defensive mons up. So you have your Chanseys. Chansey is very self-explanatory. All these defensive mons are very self-explanatory. You don't want something too weak. You don't want something without its own recovery unless you have a few options for Wish Pass, because remember, your goal is to be around for as long as possible and just wait out the opponent. And if you're not able to recover up or whatever, it's going to be a very hard time. So Shrink Sap, recover, all this. Again, you're susceptible to taunt, but that's just part of the weaknesses to it. If you play it right, you can play around it. That's why Assault Vest mons are good, because they're not susceptible to taunt. So Amoonguss and Tangrowth are both very much worth the free pick, in my personal opinion. Milotic could be something you pick up. Mandibuzz as well. I don't recommend taking anything offensive. I don't recommend taking a Powdon, because at the end of the day, you're just hurting your own team, kind of. Gliscor you could definitely take, because Gliscor is interesting because it has a bit of speed, and it's a status absorber. It's a status absorber, and it can also roost and throw off its own toxics. So there are definitely a lot of mons. It just depends on which role you want to fill and how much you want to pay for it. Corviknight, excellent mon. Corviknight is, I think definitely if you can get Corviknight and Chansey, you're nuts. That's gonna require like round 1 Corviknight pick though, and a lot of luck. But Chansey, we named off some of the big ones, right? So Chansey, Tangrowth, not Tangela, Tangrowth, Amoonguss, Reuniclus, Slowbro. What else? Other things we talked about was like Mandibuzz. I don't recommend Mandibuzz as much. Yeah, these ones are the main ones I recommend. As you can see, they're all very slow. Chansey and Tangrowth are the fastest. I think Tangrowth, in my opinion, if you can get Tangrowth and Chansey together, that's incredible. Regenerator makes you not Regenerate Assault Vest makes it so you're not as weak to taunt. But also, if you need to, wall a Dracovish that week, you can definitely do it because his physical defense is so good, right? Especially weak, but that's where Chansey comes in, right? Chansey kind of covers the stuff Tangrowth can't do. Good utility and knockoff, and a very good move pool. Amoonguss does the same thing. It's a little bit weaker, but Effect Spore is pretty cool. I believe it does get just like normal Spore. Yeah, so Spore is excellent. But Tangrowth, Chansey, in my opinion, are the best. Reuniclus is very good if you want to have a little bit of Trick Room presence. To maybe say, hey, I'm slower, but that's going to be a part of my advantage, but not make it as predictable or come every single week. It's just an option. It's a variable for the opponent to worry about and prep. That's what it is. Slowbro, obvious reason, has Teleport this generation plus Regenerator. Very similar issue, very similar thing to Amoonguss and Tangrowth, except he has Teleport, or he has Teleport, so that you can get your momentum going. Maybe go into Zero Aura. You can set up. You can do whatever you want. Yeah. So let's say tier 2. These are good options for you. But let's say with your free pick and whatever you take, you do take the Chansey and you do take the Tangrowth. It's very hard to get, but that's why I think Tangrowth is a good option, because as a backup, Amoonguss is still good, right? Amoonguss still can do the same thing. It can do a very similar thing. Tier 3, if we look at tier 3, I think Araquanid is very good, and Alolan is very good. Alolan is good because of the Regenerator, and Scald and stuff like that. Knockoff is a very good utility move on a defensive Mon. Heal Bell. Or does it get Heal Bell? I feel like it doesn't. No, it does not. Yeah, but Amoonguss is very good for obvious reasons. A Regenerator, Toxic. It has Calm Mind and stuff, which is pretty cool. It's a physical attack stat is actually very good. But more so, or it really depends on what you want. I think Araquanid is very good as well because it gives webs. And the webs, what that does is it hinders the opponent trying to break you. So maybe they do have to run a boosting speed nature after webs to outspeed a certain thing. And with Zero Aura, it's going to make it very difficult. That's why having Zero Aura plus something kind of slower to abuse webs is good. Something around maybe 95 or 85, 95 to take advantage of your webs is good. Because then it'll force the opponent to run Jolly to outspeed that Mon. Right? So, right, you get what I'm saying. So that's why This is good. It gives you another Dracovish answer, so you'll get steamrolled because the stall gets like steamrolled by Dracovish this generation. Um, I know I'm talking fast and moving at 100 miles an hour, but there's a lot of things to cover about stall. Intimidate is also a very good friend. Arcanine is a good abuser of the webs, like I said before, because it does have that 95 base speed here. It can go offensively or defensively, kind of. Cloyster is something I think that got better since Teleport is now good. It can go offensively or defensively, obviously. Darmanitan is something that takes advantage of the webs. Dhelmise is a good tier 3. Not really, actually. Dhelmise is Dhelmise is aight. This is where this tier, in my opinion, is where you're gonna want to pick up your other attacker, another offensive mon, kind of. Nothing gimmicky like Poltergeist or anything like that. But Snorlax is good value. Stack Attack is kind of good value. Tentacle is good value. Umbreon is very good for another Wish Passer. Another thing that is good here is Glaring Weezing, because the Urshifu forms kind of run through stall. It's very hard to stop them, especially the Wicked Blow one, the Single Strike, and Glaring Weezing is kind of just anti-Single Strike style Urshifu. Slowking's here if you didn't want to pay for as much for Slowbro. What else? Minxiao's here as something I can give you that can take advantage of the webs, be a bit offensive, but also has the ability to play Assault Vested because of Regenerator. Klefki is very good for Prankster, and it has an excellent defensive typing. Prankster things, setting up screens for you, spikes, rocks to whittle down the opponent. Defog, very good. What else? Incineroar can be very good. The addition of Boots really helped Incineroar out. Galvantula kind of, but I don't recommend Galvantula with Zeraora. I do think that Araquanid is one of the better options here in Tier 3. But it's up to you and really how your team's going, what you feel comfortable with. Just know these are just my suggestions. Another thing is Chandelure, or mons that can go both ways. So what's really interesting... Oh, no, never mind. I'm sorry. Chandelure is good, but no, I was thinking of something else. Here, a Silver is nice, but if you have Zeraora, it's kind of redundant. Avalugg is okay. I love Avalugg, but it's probably not as good as I hope it is. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to spend your free points primarily in Tier 2. So which means you're going to have, with your free points, 2 Tier 3s, 1 Tier 5. Which is workable, right? You want the most value out of your walls. But down here definitely is important. Ditto is good. If you're running a stall team, I recommend picking up Ditto so that you don't get the opponent doesn't feel like they can set up constantly. This is actually very important because if the opponent has like a Dragon Dancing something, and you have to run through your stall team, if you have Scarf Ditto, they're gonna have to think twice about just setting up mindlessly, right? By far, Ditto is the best option here in Tier 4. Gastron, very good option though. If you have 2 Tier 4s, or you can free pick or whatever. Licky is another good option if Chansey gets taken early. Licky does the job very well. I think it's slept on. Orbeetle's good for webs and all of that. Quagsire good for Unaware if you didn't pick up. I highly suggest an Unaware mon, even if you have the Ditto. Zatu's kind of good for keeping hazards off your side, but you're looking for defense here, and it's a little bit on the frail side. You don't want too many Violate mons, which is why I say 1 to 2 at max. Gastron, I said it's very good already. Pharisee's alright. I don't recommend it as much because it can't recover on its own. Cragona has recover, so you could kind of do that if you wanted to. Yeah, Aromatisse is a good low tier Wish Passer in my opinion. Ambibomb can kind of be good as a fast pivot. And Tier 5, no. I think I could be good is... yeah, Ditto is by and large the best. Ditto is so much better than everything else here in Tier 4. If you're building a stall team. Another thing like Exploud could be good. Forcing other opponents' slower mons, you have to run a Scarf or be worried about not being able to wall Specs Boomburst from X-Cloud. Very interesting thing to play with. This Gothtail doesn't have Shadow Tag, but if Shadow Tag was an option, it'd be one of the better ones up here, tier 1 for Saltine. But yeah, tier 4 is kind of it for tier 4. I know this is taking a very long time, but I want to be as thorough as I can without taking 100,000 years out of your day. That is Shuckle's good low tier rock and Websetter. Yeah, just all of that. Tier 5. Tier 5 is interesting. There's not a lot here in Tier 5. Autonote, I think, is a very good one. Ampharos is good for a slow pivot if you wanted it. If you wanted kind of a offense... Oh, this is the best... Okay, this one's broken because I'm unaware. It's usually banned because it's too broken and it's too powerful, but whatever. Clefairy's good. Clefairy did an excellent job. It's just susceptible to being tricked. Which, you know, Clefable is too. But having Magic Guard is very good. If you're picking up your lower tier walls, like as Clefairy and I believe it is in this tier where I forget what it's called, Quagsire? Yeah, Quagsire. If you can pick up like your tier 5 as Quagsire, your tier 4 as Clefairy, that's very good value out of your lower tiers. Another option is Devotion. If you weren't able to pick up Uniclus, it does the same job as Weak to Knockoff, but as long as you don't stack up too many Violet Mons, you're going to be okay. Dusclops is another good option. Frogadier is very good with Protean. It gives you kind of something to play around with. Alolan Gola is a good Steel Trapper if you wanted it, because a lot of times Steel is, Steels can't be toxic and stuff. Gothorita is a kind of good option if you wanted to. Say you're facing a weather team, and in the rain, King just sweeps through your team. Just trap the, it has access to Thunderbolt, and Energy Ball, and Toxic, and Rest and stuff. So just slap a Violate on it, lead it against the Pelipper, and now the Pelipper lead it against the Politoed, and the Politoed is now trapped. You can Energy Ball and stuff, and then you can stall out their rain turns, right? What else is here? Lickitung is okay. I don't recommend it because there's so many better mons. Tier 5 is very hard to deal with. Morpeko can be good. This Morgrim can be good. Tier 5 is very hard to play with. Piloswine can be good, but it doesn't get its own recovery. Pyukumuku is very good. Nobody likes Pyukumuku. Spearow can be good. It learns every move, so good web setter. Tangela can be good. Togetic can be good. Again, a lot of Violet mons, so just make sure you're not doing too much of that. Yeah. Is that kind of it for tier 5? Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of it for tier 5. Your Mega. So, you might think you need... What was that as far as it goes? You might think you need Mega Sableye to pull off a good stall team. Not always inherently true. The reason Mega Sableye is so popular in Draft League stall is usually because it's lower tiered, so you're getting points back for drafting it. But your team can succeed with something else. Like it could be a lot of Stallmons plus Mega Lopunny. Mega Lopunny has Scrappy this generation, or it always had Scrappy, so it's very good offensively. Mega Metacham is very good offensively. Mega Scizor is very good on a stall team because of its versatility. But Mega Sableye has Magic Bounce, and that's a very big deal to stop hazards from being on your side, so you don't have to defog and lose a turn of your defensive momentum. Giving your opponent any turns of momentum when you're playing stall is a problem, because then they have an open opportunity. The whole idea behind stall is you want to have your opponent, you want to be ahead of your opponent with predictions, in the sense that you have to make a lot of plays when playing stall. And I think that's something people don't look at, or they just brush off that stall is brainless, but you have to think about what you're doing. You can't just throw away your walls, because your walls, stall kind of works like if one part falls. If you lose one mon, the whole game can kind of fall apart because you're missing the check to the one thing you needed it for. So there's that. It can work with stuff like Mega Aggron or a different mon here. Mega Lopunny is a very good example, I think. Don't ever do Mega Audino, just don't. But yeah, I think your best options are going to be something like, obviously, Mega Sableye and Mega Lopunny, Mega Metacham. that stuff. Um, so that's kind of it. Just remember, you're not you're not. Don't be anything you're not. Okay, you're a stall team. Being a stall team means you play for the long game. You play very slow. Play smart, and don't compete with the opponent where you're not meant to compete. Do not try to outspeed them. Don't play speed creeping unless you have a faster mon like Zero Aura to, abuse that. Uh, just don't be something you're not. Play to your strengths, play to your team's strengths, and you can have a much better time than trying to do what the opponent is doing. But yeah, using defensive bonds, trying to hurt the opponent in prep, using assault vest bonds to kind of mitigate taunt. All of that very big. Defoggers is important too. Rockers is very important. Spikes, toxic spikes, all of that's important because it gives you passive damage, and the passive damage is really what makes stall deadly. Is being able to rack up damage without the mons doing really anything, and that's kind of the selling point for stall. So just make sure you do all those things. If we go over it really quickly, number one, get a fast mon to stop the opponent from being able to run all of their mons. Get a couple fast mons to stop the opponent from being able to run all boosting natures in attack. Number two, get lots of passive damage. This is Will-O-Wisp, this is Toxic, this is Toxic Spikes, this is normal spikes, this is rock. Get a lot of those. Get a couple defoggers, and you're gonna need more defoggers and more rock setters and stuff. If you don't have Mega Stabilize, if you do, you might not need it as much, but if you have a Mega Stabilize, they're gonna be less likely. Get a web setter, get a Dracovish answer, get mons that use assault vest, get something that can be offensively, have an offensive presence from a defensive role like Mulit-Part. If you do all that and you play well, you can definitely succeed with a stall team. Don't be a crazy person and have like a bunch of stall mons with no synergy, right? Don't draft for a violate mons. Don't make your team super weak to knock off and all that. I'm actually gonna pause the video and find an example of a stall team that I really didn't like and why. Hold on. Okay, so if we take a look at this team, as you can see here, there's a lot of good stall things here happening, but the team doesn't work overall for a few reasons. Number one, it's kind of doing more than it's supposed to. It has a lot of common weaknesses right here. This really triple ghost weakness you got going on here with Sableye, Latias, Gengar, and Blacephalon, which is another thing. Don't let your walls have common weaknesses. I'll turn down the music a little bit, I'm sorry. Don't let your walls have common weaknesses. Don't have mons like this that require tons of setup, although actually I think it could be very good closer on stall. Don't have weaker mons like Jolteon to be your fast mons that stop stuff. Don't try to make your speed tier something it's not. You're playing stall, you're not playing balance, right? If you're playing balance, you'd be running different mons. But this is a very poorly put together stall team. Psychic weak here, Psychic weak here, Psychic weak here. Bulu is cool for Bulu pecks here, but don't be trying to run Scarf Bulu and stuff like that if not. No web setter, which is alright. This team is okay, but I definitely think it could have been a lot better, right? With that, I hope that this helped a little bit show you the value of what does well on stall and draft and how to kind of put your team together. Just remember, never try to play something you aren't. Don't compete where you can't compete. Play to your strengths, and you can definitely succeed with stall. Stall is by no means incompetent. Stall can succeed. It just needs to be built right and played correctly. And obviously, the drafting itself will depend on your team's rules and tiers. But I just showed you what was valuable in each tier, and the same thing can be applied to points. Right? The same mods are good in points. You just have to find out where they are and what they're valued at, and how to price things out, how to budget. That's something I cannot help you with because each league is different. But yeah, don't be too weak to taunt. Get assault vest bonds. Don't be too weak to toxic. Don't be too weak to rocks. Don't try to mitigate your weakness of momentum. Don't try to defog. Try to defog as little as possible. Have a couple faster mons to abuse webs and stuff. Yeah, that's kind of it. That's kind of how you build draw in draft draw. That's kind of how you build stall in draft league format. Next episode we might be covering hyper offensive trick room or something like that. Not sure yet, but I want to thank you for coming back. And I know this is a very boring episode about stall and stuff, but if you feel like you want to play stall for your first time, or you want to try out stall and you don't know where to start, I hope this helped you. Just budget correctly, play smart, don't waste points or tiers or anything, and try to get mons that'll make your opponent work in prep, even if they're all defensive. Okay? And with that, I will get out of your way. So thank you, God bless, and have a good day.